Hi, everybody. So today we are going to talk about transformations of quadratic functions. In math, a transformation is a way that a graph moves. So maybe the graph shifts from side to side, maybe it shifts up and down, maybe it gets skinnier, maybe it gets wider, maybe it flips upside down. But we are going to talk about all the different ways a graph can move. We're going to start with two of the easiest ways to find how a graph is shaped and how it's moving. We're going to look at the a value of our function and the c value of our function. We're going to start with the a value because that controls a lot of things about this graph. The first thing we're going to look at is whether the a value is positive or negative. When a is positive, the graph will always be concave up. That means that our U will always be shaped like a traditional U. It will always be pointing up. We can use our brains in process of elimination to make the conjecture that when A is negative, our graph is concave down. So our U is going to be upside down. The lines that go on to infinity are going to go towards the negative part of our graph. They're going to go down. So when A is positive, our graph will always be concave up. When A is negative, our graph will always be concave down. There's a couple other things that A tells us. When A is a fraction or a decimal, our graph will always be wider. So if A is a fraction or a decimal, our graph will always be super wide, whether it's concave up because it's a positive fraction or concave down because it's a negative fraction. When A is greater than 1 or less than -1, so it's not a fraction or a decimal, our graph will get progressively narrower. So the bigger our A value is, the narrower our graph will be. So that might be like this if we have a positive graph, and that might be like this if we have a negative graph. The other important thing that changes the shape of our graphs is the C value. So let's look at what that C value does. The C value always does the exact same thing. Our C value is always the y-intercept of our graph. Between these two facts, we can make a lot of predictions about the way a graph is going to look. So let's look at two examples. Our first example, f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 7. Well, this is a positive a value, so we know our graph is concave up. It is bigger than 1, so our graph is going to be narrow. So we're looking at a graph that looks somewhat like this right now. And we know the y-intercept will be at -7 because that's our c value. In example 2, we have a negative a value, so our graph is going to be concave down. We have a fraction here. That means our graph is going to be wider, and our y-intercept is going to be at 2. So the graph is wide, it's going to be concave down, and the y-intercept will be at 2, 0. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.